It is Trinity Productions, trinityprosound.com, coming at you another video. So we're kind of on a roll here. We've got product coming in, and it is time to do some reviews. This is a Studiomaster system that was sent to us, and it is their compact line array. It is the V6A. They have a passive version and an active version as well. It does have built-in DSP, which we will flip this around and show you as well. But the V6A and then the 15-inch companion sub that goes with it, the V6SA, all active, powered, DSP controlled, and let's get into the specs. So the V6A, these top boxes have a max SPL of 130 dB, and I think that there's a number one disclaimer note here. I'll have to see what that is. The amplifier power to the what they're calling mid frequencies, but it's the 6.5-inch drivers that they've got in these things, is 400 watts. The high frequency driver is 150 watts. It is a injection molded box. Frequency response on the top boxes is 70 to 20,000. That is at minus 10 dB. So that's probably the minus 10 dB has to do with the low end of the 70, because I would really kind of see these going down to maybe around, effectively at a good volume, probably around 90. So as far as coverage is concerned, 100 degrees wide, 10 degrees in the vertical, so standard line array type format. The low frequency drivers, they have 6.5-inch drivers, as I said, 38 millimeter voice coils. I will get that up somewhere here of what it is in inches. High frequency driver, a 3-inch with a 74 millimeter voice coil. DSP on board, has gain, equalizer, crossover, delays, and I think it's got a compressor built in because it talks about threshold. And then the angles for deployment, 0 to 10 degrees in 1 degree steps that we'll get into. And then the dimensions of this box, 470 by 207. So I'm taking that the 470 is this way, 207 millimeters this way, 341 this way, but we will get that in somewhere around here, inches over here. So that's the V6A, the top box. On the 15-inch sub, max SPL on this puppy, 130 dB, amplifier power, 1200 watts. The weight is 41 kilos, so we'll get that transferred over as well. The top boxes, the weight on those are 15 kilos, and we'll get that down here somewhere of what those are. It is flyable, so with their suspension frames, it is a flyable cabinet, or it's got feet on it for ground stacking. It does have a 15-inch driver in it with a 100 millimeter voice coil. And then again, DSP has got gain, EQ, crossover, delay, and threshold, which I'm assuming is compression of some type. So anyway, size-wise, 474, 506 deep. No, I take 474 wide, 506 tall, 673. It's pretty deep, so it's got some pretty good volume to it. For this for a 15-inch cabinet that can be flown. I have heard this. We did fire it up the day that we took delivery of it, and I had to send an email back to the master distributor that imports all the Studiomaster in New York, and I was just like, wow. So I would put this on the, the kind of in the neighborhood of the HDL6 from RCF as far as output and sound quality. So with that said, what we're going to do is I've got it up on a cable cart or cable trunk right now. It will get in and show you, you know, kind of what everything is. But what I'm going to do is spin this thing around, and we'll look at the back of them. And as I spin, we'll just kind of look. I've already got some cables hooked up to it. So there's no handles on the top boxes, but they are, you know, fairly light. The sub's got handles on it down here and on each side. It does have the some indents where they've milled it out on the subs for the rubber feet, so another box can stack on top of it. And then, depending on what the DSP is, we're going to take a look at that. They might be able to do cardioid subs with these, so we'll see if that is a possibility. So we'll continue to spin here and get into the back side of these things. So top boxes have inputs and link outputs on them. I've got a Y cable going to both boxes now. They do have a RJ45 in and out on them. I think that is possibly for DSP updates or future software that is coming. I haven't been able to find anything at this point on the website of software control for the RS485 on this, but I'm assuming that, because these are fairly new, I'm assuming that is in process. So fly hardware on them, so you can link subs together to fly. It has a link here so that if the sub is up top, which is what is recommended on the fly frame, tops or subs first, then tops. You can end up suspending all of the speakers underneath. They do have all of the pins and rigging hardware and everything permanently attached to them. Power cons in and out. So we've taken power into the amplifier of the subwoofer out into a top box with a jumper cable out into the upper top box as well. So the amplifier on this puppy is kind of indented a little bit into the cabinet so that everything is not sticking out too far as the heat sink and everything on it. But little display windows for the DSP and everything here. So what we're going to do is go ahead and get this plugged in and see what our DSP options are on these boxes. So right now, let's see here, that's a little bit better. So what we've got in just it's showing the dB level. It's showing high frequency cut mode, so you can dial in gain or loss on the high frequency. So you can go up to 6 and 6 dB plus, minus 3 dB, and then you can go into a custom. But we're just going to go ahead and leave that at 0 at this point. Low cutoff, 80 hertz, 100 hertz, 120 hertz, 150 hertz. So you can dial in the low cutoff. If I was running these boxes, I'd have them probably on 90. And they've got high EQ, where you can dial in high, mid, and low EQ. Delay, so you can dial in milliseconds of delay. And then the LED mode, I'll have to look and see what that is because I'm not seeing any, maybe that's the display. Dimming, brightness, contrast. So they've got addresses on these things, so I think with a future software release, you can end up addressing all of these boxes to be able to look at them individually, is my kind of my take on it, of what the addressing is going to do. And then you've got firmware version, which is, this is the first firmware version, and then exit back out of it. And most likely, I think this is going to be a level meter, showing us the type of input that is on these boxes. But a little bit more than some of the other manufacturers give you as far as the DSP is concerned on these. Gives you some adjustability. I think once that they would get the software in and up and running, you'll be able to tie these together with a Cat5 cable. Since it's RS-485, probably, any kind of Cat cable would work because it's just such a low bit rate. On the sub, let's go ahead and get into that. So on the sub, it's got normal, outdoor settings, and custom. It has delay on it as well. LED mode, dim, bright, contrast, again, address, reset, info, first version of firmware it looks like, and exit out. So that may be something in the future that they can include in the next update for the software, is to be able to do phase reversal on them rather than having to feed it with a separate mix, so that you can end up phase reversing and being able to do cardioid subs. Since they've got delay built into these things, to me that would be prudent. But again, these things are fairly new on the market, and what we're going to do now is get into it and pull the front off this thing and take a look at it. We'll most likely pull the amplifier module out as well and take a look at that. I don't see any kind of fan assemblies. They've got a good size heat sink on these things. So this one does have in the subwoofer an opening that there may be a fan here, but it's got a good size heat sink on it as well. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and flip this puppy back around and get into it. Oh, before we do, let me show you the rigging increments there that this thing can be adjusted for. So between the boxes with the linking and everything and the way this all connects, 10 degrees in 1 degree increments, which is really pretty cool for adjustment. Ground stack, you could end up doing, we did a little bit of a AutoCAD drawing showing some different configurations that can be done with these things. They also make a 2-box speaker or pole adapter for this series, so that there's an M20 thread back here that you can screw a pole into and get a crank pole or whatever it might be, and put 2 boxes up on top of the sub for, a corporate event, or if you've got a bunch of boxes you need to put out, or a smaller, bar gig or restaurant or something like that, or smaller outdoor event. You want some quality sound, which I think you'll see once we get into the traces and listening to music on these things. Really kind of compact and would be very easy to deploy. There's enough surface area on this, the back of it, that if you needed to put wheels on the back of these subs rather than putting them on a cart or something, you could end up using T-nuts on the inside and drill these puppies out and put pin L-com wheels on them. Really quite easy. Once we get this amplifier pulled out, we'll take a look up in there and see how much space is available to do that. But I've done that on some of the subwoofers that we have in our inventory, and it's worked out great. In the pin L-com wheels, you just can't go wrong. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect some power cords so we can get into these things and get them opened up. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a snap. One of the things notable is that the fly hardware on these things doesn't retract or get out of the way. Some of the other speaker manufacturers allow them to either push back in or fold in or whatever to get them out of the way and pin them. This one, they are there all the time. So we'll take a look at that as well. There's 4 screws on the top of the grill holding it in, and 4 on the bottom holding it in.
One eternity later.
So looks like about an 18 gauge grill. We'll get on this camera here since it kind of auto focuses and kind of show you how they've done it. There is a little bit of nylon grill cloth in it, but as far as gauge wise, I'm guessing probably 18 gauge on the thickness of that material. I don't know what it would be in millimeters. Both of the 6.5 inch drivers, there is some baffling for waveforming on these speakers. Other manufacturers have done something very similar to that. The high frequency driver down the center of this box, tucked in way back there. So, but it's, it is all plastic at this price point. That's kind of what I would, expect, being that it is a plastic box. But it does have some type of deadening material inside of it, padding, that when you, there's no resonance of it, you bang it on it. So we're going to go ahead and try to figure out how we're going to get some of these drivers out of here, but because it looks like it's going to be a fun one. So stay tuned. Okay, so we've been working on figuring out how to get the screws out on the mounting. So I think we did. Unfortunately, this camera right here didn't get on, and so I'm not sure how much we got from that angle in the prior video cuts, scenes, things. But the horn assembly, 4 screws right out of the front of this thing, and it just, whole thing just pulls right out of the front. So we've got a blue wire for the plus, push on, yellow wire for the minus, and a pretty healthy driver right there. So we'll take it over here and take a look at it. Power is 80 watts. It is 4 ohms. Somewhere it'll focus here. There it goes. So it feels pretty, I don't know, it almost feels like it's neodyme. So, but plastic horn assembly, waveguide there's a little bit of a waveguide down in the throat of it there. I don't think you can see it because there's just not enough light to be able to see it. But they do have it so it seals up around where it inserts into the cabinet itself, and then just kind of all bolted together. There's a seal up top here and a seal on the bottom down here where it helps with sealing it so that no air comes out of the thing. So what they have done though is that down each side there is porting so that will allow low frequency to come out of the box as well. So they've got on the back side there, and if you turn it right, you can see all the way out to the front of the speaker. So we'll get that down. Once that's opened up, we've got all of the electronics and everything in there exposed. Power input on the amplifier. There is 0 fan. And then as far as the 6.5-inch drivers, those are Allen hex head screws on everything. And so I've already got 3 of them out. And that makes the 4th. And that is what's holding in the driver as well as that little baffling waveguide on it. So plus and minus on the speaker. We'll go ahead, and it looks like these guys are maybe wired together in parallel. Let's see, whoa, see if we can't pull this off and show you the speaker. It is a there we go. There's little push pins on these things. This is a ceramic magnet on these 6.5-inch speakers. So let's see if there's any kind of model number on them. They are 4 ohms, so they may be wired together in series. So let's go ahead and take a look. There is a vent down the center of it for cooling. Pretty good sized ceramic magnet. It is, for a smaller speaker like that, it is a stamped frame. And so 100 watts power rating on the little 6.5-inch driver itself. I'm going to leave the other one in, but we'll go ahead and, well, I've got everything opened up. You can kind of see it on this particular camera, but what I'm going to do is fire up the video here, and we'll go ahead and take a look inside. So you can see the dampening material that I was referring to when you knock on the thing earlier, that they've done a pretty good job in getting that in. There is bracing back there to hold the high frequency driver in place so that it doesn't put too much stress on the whole horn assembly itself. And then everything is routed. Yes, so I'm looking at everything coming out of here, and those speakers are routed and connected in series so that they're presenting an 8 ohm load to the amplifier. So, but input section there, power supply, output, there's the output semiconductors, and on each side, and so they're tied to that huge heat sink. And then we've got the input connectors over there. Everything's tied up, a lot of ferrite coils that are being used. But for a small little line array box, they've done a good job in getting it together and utilizing the space and doing some things where they've got it, braced top and bottom, so that don't have to worry about snapping the back of the driver off, if it happens to get dropped or something. But just over time, stuff like that can happen and weaken things up. But easy as far as servicing is concerned. I'm not going to go ahead and pull the amplifier since we've got access to it, and we just kind of showed you everything on that. But for a injection molded or polypropylene or whatever they call this particular box, pretty amazing. And then all of the fly hardware is on the sides of these things so that this is all tied together and held in place. And then basically it's the box that is sandwiched between the fly hardware, and the load is transferred through all of the fly hardware and the steel, and the box is just, like with other line arrays, just kind of sitting there between the fly hardware itself. So that's the V6A. What we're going to do now is go ahead and get into the sub, and I'll end up unpinning this, scooting it back a little because I think we've got screws all along the top up here, and now we have a dead spider. But I'll go ahead and unpin this. So stainless steel pins, you know, they look kind of small, but I'll get one here in video. But it is the shear strength that we are concerned about, or anybody would be concerned about, on those pins. And sometimes, you know, with the weight of these things and what they've calculated and the shear strength of that, we're good. So let me go ahead and push this puppy back a little bit. And now we've exposed the grill, and it looks like we may just have a few screws in the sides of this that we have to contend with to be able to get the grill off the 15-inch. So longer machine screw. Longer machine screw everywhere. And my take is that it's going through this fly hardware, and then the fly hardware is attached here on both sides to hold the cabinet. So we'll see what they've got on the inside of this puppy as well. Looks like we just had the grill loosen up. And we did. So again, looks like 18 gauge as far as the material thickness. They do have a strip on the top and the bottom to help with the attachment and rattling and making sure it's secured, as well as they've got that material on both sides so that we don't get any rattles or anything out of it. But again, the another spider. Geez, don't know where these guys are coming from. Must have hitched a ride when they shipped it. But yeah, with the nylon and the way that they've done it, just very clean and you know, pretty decent quality, you know, as far as a grill. So now we got the 15-inch exposed, and looking at, you know, we've got a kind of a bandpass enclosure here that we're working with, and you know, typical surround on this. And again, all the fly hardware, we've got steel here on the inside, and it's also bolted through on each side of this cabinet. We'll go ahead and pick up the iPhone here for a reference, but it's all bolted through, and the cabinet's held in place, top, sides, bottom, so that the load is all vertically transferred through the fly hardware on this. And like I said, on the line arrays, the cabinets basically just sit between the fly hardware. So we'll go ahead now, and these are all on Allen hex heads. We'll go ahead and get those pulled and get the 15-inch out, and we'll probably be able to see the amplifier back there to see if it's got any fans or anything on it as well. And while we're doing this, I'm going to go ahead and turn this just a little bit more. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So we've got a little bit more on. All on T-nuts. This is a cast frame speaker. And I can tell that right as we're undoing everything because I can see the cast portion of the frame. Now, ooh, there it is. Just like that. Oh my goodness. Holy smokes. All right, we're going to go ahead and pull off plus and minus. They're just on push binding posts. And we'll put this down for a second. That's where all the weight is. And we'll get some video on the inside. We will pull the amplifier off of the back because they've got it so that it is fully enclosed back there. So let's get oriented here and zoomed out, and here we go, zooming in. So we've got these ports, 4 locations all the way around. This is recessed so that the frame sits back into it. There's T-nuts on the back side of everything that is holding the speaker in once the screws are all attached. We've got padding and insulation to help with cabinet resonance, bracing on the inside of it here, and bracing for the fly hardware. And then back in the back, the amplifier is completely enclosed all the way around it, and that, I am sure, is to help with the sonic properties of the subwoofer. But when we did fire get my finger out of the way, when we did fire this up, for a 15-inch sub, I was really quite amazed with the output out of the thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a 15. So quite remarkable. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to let you take, this thing's got to be 30 or 35 pounds. So it's pretty stinking beefy. Oh, and I found all of the screws that I set it by. Because the magnet just sucked them right up. So let's go ahead and take a look, oh gosh, at the face of this thing. Get my right from left and left from right. So there it is, you know, typical paper surround. Cone seems to be somewhat reinforced. It is a cast frame on this, I would assume so, with the low end. It does have a vent through it for the voice coil, so that as it's moving its motor, that it will help circulate air. Binding post connections on it. I mean, this thing's heavy. And then it is 8 ohms impedance. Power handling is 800 watts is what the driver says on it. So really quite impressive for a 15-inch at this price point. And I'll put in the MSRP and MAP prices on these puppies as well. You'll be quite impressed. So we're going to go ahead and set this down and get the grills out of the way here, and then we'll rotate. A little bit tougher logistically when I've got something this big that we're dealing with instead of up on the table where I can use the Lazy Susan tray, so to speak. So we'll go ahead and get this thing flipped around here. See how we're doing on, I think we can, yeah, we can see the amplifier and everything on it. So we'll go ahead and get our tool of choice here. And these are all held on by Phillips head screws. Just standard wood screws. We may have to undo this hardware though to be able to get that amplifier out, or at least one of them, so that we can end up pulling it out. Let's see. Oh, nice. Those are on machine screws, so that's even better. So looks like we'll be able to do that. But I think I'm going to have to pull this entire bottom bracket off. With a line of these, one off. Good old DeWalt. Doubles as a hammer. But with a line of these, of probably, with the output of them, the SPL, with a line of these, probably 5 or 6, and flown up in the air. I would say that, you know, we did, and I think I've mentioned in some of my other videos, we did an event with 5 of the RCF HDL6s per side, plus a 12-inch sub to help with the rolling of the low end, so that we could roll off the 6.5-inch drivers in those a little bit higher, so they weren't working so hard on the low end. But anyway, case in point that we ended up doing a Blues and Brews festival with those flown, and we ended up having a little over 1,000 people come to that were all scattered all over the place. But we had tons of SPL and sound level that we could work with. We had the mix position probably 80 feet back from the stage, and gosh, it sounded wonderful. So I would anticipate something like this with some ground stack subs, and maybe a sub flown with the array, so that the transition and low end is below, 90 or 100, is picked up more by the subwoofer, and so that, the 6.5 inches drivers are not working so hard. So that would be my recommendation, but totally doable with this. So let's see if we can get this puppy out. I think I'm going to have to take this bracket out as well. That was not a happy screw. There we go. All right. I felt it move, and here it comes. How nice. So they've got this so that it is on a, like a Molex connector, so that things can come apart. There we go. So what they've done, so there is a fan on the back of this puppy. With the wattage, it kind of, I would assume it would need some additional cooling. But everything, on this puppy, I mean, typical power amp, all surface mount technology. As far as construction and connectors and everything, it looks pretty good. I mean, the connectors are not Neutrix, but quality-wise, they look pretty decent. Power cons look almost like a dead match for a Neutrix, but they've done a pretty good job in getting it all together. It's very compact, and but it does have the fan. And so what they've done, and I don't know if you can kind of see this, which it would be worth showing you. We'll just get out the phone here and do a little bit of a video. So what they've done is that this is a port right here, and that port goes up and in over here so that the fan pulls in from here, and it pulls in, and that's where this little screen comes into play. That is where it's pulling the air in with the fan pointing and directed onto the heat sinks for the power semiconductors for the amplifier. So pretty ingenious. And then they've got the thing sealed up on the cabinet so that there's no air transfer or anything as far as this little cabinet for the amplifier and sectioned off will permit to happen. So that's pretty stinking cool. So the amplifier, 8 pounds maybe, so not too heavy. And that's about it. We're going to go ahead and get this thing back together. They have, as you can kind of see here, you can see the whole heatsink assembly, and then I doubt you can see the power semiconductors on this thing. I'm just not seeing where they are mounted. Lots of surface mount technology on it. So I mean, just a bunch of tiny little parts. If they didn't do that, the amplifier would be huge. So, all right, well, we're going to go ahead and plug this thing back in and get this cabinet back together. And then what we're going to do is we will run some noise through it. We'll run it through the top boxes first, or a top box, and then we'll run it through the sub to see frequency response of the top box and the frequency response of the subwoofer, and then we'll run it so that they're all together and take a look at that, and then play some music through it. So we'll end up playing some music through the top box, and we'll do the sub as well, so you can listen to that, and then we'll put them together so that it is forming a complete system, complete package. So we're going to get this back together. We'll come back when everything's together and we're ready to roll.
Many unbearable hours later.
Okay, so we are all back together. That took a little bit to do. Lots of screws, but everything went back together. No leftover hardware. Always amazing. So we've got the noise generator and spectrograph and RTA all hooked up and ready to roll. You can see kind of as I'm talking and picking up stuff that you can see that it's running, it's working. And so what I'm going to do is I've got the microphone. We've just got the top box that we're going to be sending signal to, so we can get a representation of just one. And I'm not going to go for any maximum, let's get back on the camera. I'm not going to go for any maximum SPL or anything like that. I want to look at the response curve and see where this thing falls off on the low end and kind of what it's doing through the mids and the high ends as far as response with pink noise. So let's go ahead and get started. So you can see right out of the chute here, we'll freeze it and pause it, but right out of the chute you can see that frequency-wise, I mean, we are down, you know, it goes down to into the 50s, but it's quite a bit down. Excuse me. So where this box really starts to shine is, looks like in the 90 to 100 range. And then as we go across the spectrum, you can kind of see that we're pretty bright up in the 5K to 7K, 10K range. So let's go ahead and ramp that thing up again. So now you can see what we've got as far as a represented plot and how it's starting to come up on the graph as well with the RTA, or the spectrum on the RTA. I'm going to go in and change a setting on the there we go. So you can kind of see we've got a little bit more up in the high frequency area, so going to need a little bit of EQ to roll that off and flatten things out up there the way it looks. But I think that can be done with DSP settings in the box as well. So taking that down at the high a couple of dB, which I think I will just do real quick, and we'll see what happens with that. So I'm going to do high frequency minus 3 dB. And let's see what that looks like. Start this rolling. That looks a whole lot better because it ended up taking that down. There's still some adjustability that you can do in the high frequency section, but that helped more up on this, you know, 65 to 70 dB line as we're running the RTA, that we can kind of see what's going on. But you can see here that really about 100 is where this box is going to be performing, and the sub will end up picking up everything from 100 on down. So that was one of the settings that you can do in the sub so that you can get that crossover done correctly on it. But, you know, it's, you know, with that adjustment, yeah, fairly flat, you know, for the drivers. With the 6.5-inch drivers and the volume of this box, I would not expect a whole lot of low end. And some of the other speakers that we've had, the DB Technologies, DVA T4s, the HDL. Gosh, what else has been a small box like that? That, you know, low end is not their friend anyway. So there's just not enough volume and cone and movement and everything to really be able to produce a lot of low end with these boxes. Not like we did with the Turbo Sound boxes or the Wharfdale boxes as well. So that's the top box. We're going to go ahead and switch over to the sub and take a listen to that. I'm going to lower the mic down just a little bit for the sub, and we'll go from there. And let's see what the sub's doing. Ooh. I can feel it. So you're seeing, I mean, we're, getting down to 31. Let's see what some of the DSP settings on this are real quick. I just put it into outdoor mode, so we'll see what that does. Gives us a little bit more low end. So you can see the crossover stops right around 100, 150. It really drops off there. Got quite a bit of energy though in the low end, but I do like the too much volume, but I do like just the normal setting a whole lot better than the outdoor mode. We'll do that again on a sweep. It's got quite a bit of low end to it, so turn that down. And now what we're going to do is put both top boxes together and the sub and take a look at what the RTA and the spectrograph are doing. Okay, so now we are plugged through, and let's go ahead and turn some. So we've got both speakers going. I'm going to turn the high frequency down on the second box like we did on the other one. So now we're 3 dB down on that box as well, and we'll turn it up. So we're seeing quite a bit of energy down low here in the 50, 70, 100 area. Pretty good energy through 200, 300, 500, 700, 1K to 2K. Not a whole, but there's not as much energy. You can see that here on the RTA as well as the spectrograph. And then as we get 3K up to 10K, a little bit more as far as frequency and signal level at those particular frequencies or that band of frequencies. So it may end up to be able to get that to pull down a little bit more on the high-end roll-off. So I'm going to roll off a couple of more dB on the high frequency on both those top boxes. And I'm also going to set the low cut at 80 on both of them. And the high EQ, I'm going to take down 3 dB. Okay, let's give that a shot. Get this tracking again. Still pretty hot up there, so I'm going to pull down another 2 dB for a total of 5. So there's 5 dB on that box. 5 dB on that box. And let's get this tracking again. So I like that response a little bit better. You can see where I started to turn the volume up there, but I think overall, with a little bit of cut in there, it's not as bright. You can do that certainly on your mixer board rather than doing it on the speakers. But with 2 per side, you're going to end up getting a lot more coupling in your mids to lows with the more boxes that you have versus just these 2. So that could all change just by putting in a longer array of these particular boxes. So yeah, so that's the low end and the high end. What we're going to end up doing now is we'll play some music through it and end up looking at that on spectrograph and the RTA. We'll do the top boxes first, then the sub, kind of where you can see that is. We'll hook up the Zoom recorder so you can hear it and get that going. Okay, we are recording on the Zoom. We'll sync that up here real quick. So I'm going to go to my playlist. So we'll just do a single left channel input on this. Everything in there is together. So going to do the top boxes first. Theme song. Stinking thing. So anyway, this is the YouTube song I've been using. I've got both top boxes hooked up. RTA mic is almost on axis with them. So let's go ahead and play. So that is the 2 top boxes together. I'm going to switch that up and we're going to send that just through the sub. So we just got that into the sub so you can kind of see what the sub is doing on that same song. So there's our low end right around 100, really 51 to 100, but much more pronounced at 100. And you can barely hear the rest of the track. It's so far down. Kind of rattling everything. All right, so that's the sub. Let's go ahead and get it hooked up so that we are subs and tops. So we'll put the right channel into the subs, the left channel into the top boxes, and go from there. Turn it down just a wee. where am I here? So you can hear the directionality on the 100 degrees on these boxes. So if you stand off to the side and then move back, it does drop off. The high frequency drops off, as well as a considerable amount of the mid-range drops off out of here. The sub is just, you know, just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and keep playing. So there you have it, the Studiomaster V6A and V6SA sub. So I mean, with this, with two boxes and a sub, with these guys elevated on the pole mount, gosh, formidable little package that you'd have. And then if you did a line of these things, you could ground stack, and I'll put up the picture of what we did with the AutoCAD drawing here, that you can kind of see some of the different configurations and power requirements that these boxes will end up taking as far as number of 20 amp circuits and things like that. So if you want, send us an email and I can send you the PDF of that so you can refer to it as well if you want. But that is it, Studiomaster. So again, you know, I've been very impressed with the Studiomaster lineup of what they've been producing. And yes, it is made in China, but they do a lot of their design requirements and everything in the UK, and then feed that over to the manufacturing facility, and we get this. So next one up is going to be the Sense 12 Plus A wedge monitor, active. So we'll see how that lines up and tracks up compared to the passive one that we've got. I'm sure it's the same driver, it's just amplified. So again, email us, info@trinityprosound.com. We're on the web, www.trinityprosound.com. Telephone 209-832-8023. We're located right outside of Springfield by about 20 minutes. So if you're in the area, give us a buzz and come take a look at everything. So again, thank you again for your time and patience, and thank you again for watching. Trinity Productions, trinityprosound.com.